The Terrifier series has been on my mind the last few months leading up to T3. I want to say that I'm a big fan of these movies, and that's true, I am, but I am also very aware of how flawed they are as films, so it makes them a little difficult to talk about. So during this video, you may hear me glazing these movies like toaster strudel, and that's okay. I will explain my gripes with this series as well here and there as we go. This isn't so much a review as it is me just yapping. What's up? Let's go. There was this little piece of news going around after the first Terrifier where director Damien Leone was saying he was studying screenwriting because he was aware that it was his Achilles heel as a filmmaker. These movies were never designed or intended to be huge, and to make all this money, they just wanted to make a horror movie that they would want to watch. And as the series has progressed, especially from 1 to 2, you can see that Leone put an effort to try and offer the audience something more than just these kills, something with a little more narrative meat on the bone. A good example, the inclusion of Sienna and Jonathan was a great attempt at creating a central group of characters to go against Art rather than just giving him victims to eviscerate one after the other. Sienna as our main hero, our final girl, was a great idea, and I still think it is, because what Leone ended up doing was both. Let's put in a core story to follow, while at the same time giving Art victim after victim. For some, Terrifier 2 is still a bloated mess, for others it's a mega slasher masterpiece, and for me it was somewhere in between. For example, I could talk for a long time about what I don't like in Terrifier 2. It's got some bad acting and it's got too much convoluted narrative that either doesn't make total sense or doesn't matter, and is usually both. And yet I've seen it about 4 times, whether to show to horror fans or just to watch by myself. There's just something magnetic about the vibe of Terrifier, and I'm making this video to figure out why I love it so much. What I can tell you is the exact moment I understood these Terrifier movies. The bedroom scene. Not because I'm a sick fuck, though I do like a quick fuck, but because it taught me something about the point of Terrifier. If you haven't seen this movie, please don't watch this if you're easily f***ed up by gross stuff, okay? In the bedroom scene, when Art has mutilated Allie in a myriad of horrific ways, so sadistic that her still being alive almost feels like high fantasy, she's laying there on the floor and Art walks out of the bedroom off screen. He returns with a bucket of salt and bleach. You know the scene. And at that moment, I just started laughing. I laughed so hard, and I felt like a monster for a second at first. But the more I thought about my own reaction to that scene, the more it started to click with me what these movies are doing. By completely eliminating the line and going as far as you possibly can, Terrifier is able to transcend its own genre and sort of become absurdist black comedies. What makes Terrifier so entertaining isn't the blood and guts, it's the salt and the bleach. I hear people, when trying to convey the level of violence in the Terrifier movies, bring up things like Martyrs or High Tension or other French extremity stuff, but that is not a selling point in my opinion. No offense to those movies, Martyrs especially, but they're absolute misery fests, and they will bum you out, or worse, they'll harsh the fuck out of your vibe. They aren't bad movies by any means, but they aren't in this same sub-genre as Terrifier, because horrific violence in movies, especially violence of this magnitude, is almost never meant to make you feel joy or whimsy. It's meant to grind your nerves down to a pulp or to convey suffering of characters we care about. But Art is, dead ass, a super funny character, and that's so hard to do. And David Howard Thornton is the main reason why this tone succeeds so well in these movies. His skills as a purely physical performer in these are truly impressive. But anyway, we are here to talk about Terrifier 3, and I have to say, I did like it a lot. And through hard work and sheer creative will over all these years, they've managed to pull off something unheard of at the box office. This unrated, commercially nauseating movie was #1, dude. This clown is king, which is super dope. It doubled its budget its opening weekend. These movies triumph when it comes to specifically the exact thing that they offer. Disgustingly creative kills being enacted by a horror icon whose impact on the culture probably won't be fully realized for a few more years. He's already iconic, I know, but if this series continues to succeed, we're talking like Jason and Freddy levels of recognition, but in the general public, it'll be in the zeitgeist, dude. Lauren Rivera is even better in this than she was in 2, and in fact, the acting talent across the board has gone way up again. The series continues its upward trajectory just like how Leone wanted. He wanted to improve as a filmmaker with each new movie, and even though we're not all the way there yet, it's really exciting to report that it shows and he's following through on that goal. The plot is the easy target here to criticize, as the movie is far more concerned with its prime directive to gross you out. I hated how little they had of Jonathan, and by the way, huge spoilers here, there's no way he's really dead at the end of this movie. If he's not back in 4, I will be pretty upset, because this kid is such a champion for these movies, and I think the stories really do call for more of him if we want to have any narrative clarity by the end of this series. Art kills kids in this one, I know, which again, if you just told a random person this, they'd probably think it's wrong and horrible and exploitative, and I guess it is, but when it's packaged the way these movies are, you can't help but laugh from pure shock at what is happening. When I was a kid, I went into this haunted house with a friend of mine, and we came to this room where a man in a pig mask and a butcher's apron was sitting behind a table engulfed in smoke from one of those smelly fog machines. He gestured for us to come closer, so I slowly walked right up to the table. In one hand, he held a hatchet while the other was splayed out on the table between us. Then he swung the axe down and cut off his hand, scaring me and my friend half to death. He then laughed and pointed at the sign leading us out and into the next room. That's Terrifier. It's not a movie deserving to be banned or boycotted, and it shouldn't be a movie to be afraid of. It's not French Extremity, it's just there to get a rise out of you. Terrifier embodies the Halloween spirit more than Spirit Halloween does. T3 specifically also embodies the Christmas spirit, as this is definitely an essential Christmas horror movie. Love the Santa costume, I love the opening set piece set on Christmas Eve. The way Leone integrates kills with the holiday theme is always clever and it never disappoints. I don't want to pigeonhole Leone more than he already has himself, but it does get my imagination running for what other holiday-specific kills we could get in the future, Easter, St. Patty's Day, etc. So many disgusting opportunities. I don't support disgusting acts of violence, by the way, in real life. In fact, they make me rather uncomfortable. But for those out there that get a kick out of the gory stuff, I'd much rather you get your jollies from Terrifier 3 than from cartel beheading videos or whatever other filth you're seeing on Twitter every day. I described the rat scene to a coworker of mine, thinking the whole time I was selling him on the movie, only to have him legitimately not want to hear any more about it, and he shook his head and walked away visibly upset at picturing what I was describing. I felt bad. We're cool now though. Hey Tommy, what's up, blood? He might be watching. So to say Terrifier is an acquired taste is a bit of an understatement, but I will say, to wrap up, Terrifier 3 is one of the most lighthearted, heavy movies I've seen, and its only competition is the one before it. But I do encourage people to comment some other movies you think toe this line of comedy and gore. Trauma comes to mind, but a lot of trauma movies are very focused on actual written comedic beats, where the Terrifier movies convey its humor by leaning all the way into provocative violence to the point where you can't help but be stunned when paired with David Howard Thornton's mime performance mastery. I'm glad these movies are campy. I'm glad they aren't actually scary, and I'm glad they exist. But Terrifier 3 is probably the scariest of the three, while also fleshing out Art as a character to as much of an extent as they can, along with his partner, the other lady who the spirit is the kid from 2. Like, I don't even want to get into the lore. I'm gonna blow my head off. Favorite kills, I do love the shower scene in this. I thought it was so over the top on the male side of things that I cringed harder than I did in Maxine, I would say. But I love the rat scene. As putrid as it was to me, I do think that is an incredibly effective kill and probably the scariest kill of the movie. Terrifier 3 also ends suddenly on a pretty insane cliffhanger, and I swear I'll be there opening night for Terrifier 4. Sign me up, baby. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a good one. Bye.
Ain't in my best yet, just let me work. Blessing good, it's better than worse. Count my blessings, said it was severed a curse. This ain't no regular burn, it's a message.